What's up, folks? I'm Odd, by the way. I need you to share with me a vision. Here, we have a collection of food-based Pokemon. Specifically, kind of a cafe-style food-based selection of Pokemon. There are fruit Pokemon. I think there are a few other, like, technically food-based, food item-based Pokemon, vegetables, stuff like that, or things that are jokes about it, like, far-fetched. The idea that there's an old adage in Japanese that is like, it's not like a duck is gonna walk up with a leek in its beak. Like, essentially saying, like, this is a nonsense pipe dream situation, right? So I thought that it would be funny, though, to take this team and do some kind of like extra regional variant versions of them. This is similar to the stuff that I've done before, really, but it's just less random. Like, I wanted to try a more specific set of Pokemon to theme this after. And let me know if there are any other like group themes you'd like to see me do. And I think I'm going to try to do the whole team of 6 that I have arranged for myself here. But I figured that I would also show you like what my ideas were for each of these, right? So let's start with Polteageist here, right? And these are fully evolved forms of all of them because I assume that would be how they would be presented. So Polteageist, I'm thinking coffee, because we already have, I already forget what it is. I feel like I knew before and now I'm forgetting. But the one that is matcha and Kitakami. So we have that, but I would think that in another circumstance that it would be a, if it were like in, say, Unova, or maybe even Sinnoh. I don't know if Sinnoh is necessarily fully based off of the states, but it feels like it to me because it's divided down the middle by a giant mountain, like the west coast of the United States. So it's like Unova and Sinnoh are like East Coast, West Coast, kind of. And you know, eventually when we do get our Gen 5 remix, which time isn't real. I'm not ready. What do you mean? There's been 5 more generations of Pokemon since Gen 5. Or almost 5 generations after Gen 5. But if we were to get a variant of this Pokemon in an American-based situation, I do think that it would be coffee. Because it's just a little ghost that possesses like pottery items, right? So it would make sense that it was in a coffee pot in another situation, right? So that's my idea for Polteageist. I guess it would have to be a different name as well, wouldn't it? And then for Appleton, I'm not totally sure. Appleton being based off of an apple turnover, but like also just kind of like an apple pie. Like, apple turnover is a bit different, isn't it? It's more of a crumble, which I mean we could go about, or another pie, or just like a different food altogether. I don't know why I made that A capital if I didn't do the E. Let's do this. There. I like the cake concept almost, you know? Like the concept of it being a completely different, or like a pear. Just another kind of pie would be interesting. And then this is Slurpuff, which is the evolved form of Swirlix, which is more obviously based off of cotton candy. Slurpuff, I don't know if it's supposed to be a Slurpee or a ice cream of some sort. I know you trade it with something, but I am unsure what to do with it. I guess like cotton candy turns into like an ice cream of some sort, and I know that we have an ice cream, which I will get down to. Or like a snow cone. And then Vanillux, the 2-headed ice cream cone from Gen 5. And I would think if I were to go for another snow cone approach for these two, I mean, they would still be an ice type, which doesn't feel like it's in the vibe of regional variants. It would just kind of be like a different kind. So I'm thinking maybe like Cake Pop, right? Like a 2-headed Cake Pop. Trying to think what else is duo, kind of, or what else could be duo. Maybe like a, oh my god, what is milkshake, which kind of keeps with the ice cream theme almost, right? Or float more specifically. Like I don't know how common this is in a lot of places, but soda ice cream essentially. Root beer float is the most popular. But anything can be made into a float. I've made a series of floats in my life because I could imagine like an old-fashioned an old-fashioned soda jerk style like vibe for them as well, almost kind of like a back in time situation. And then for au creme, it is supposed to be based off of whipped cream, which makes sense. And then it kind of like has like a cake situation, but I think it would be funny to do. How do you spell meringue? Hold on. I want to spell this right. Not that it matters. Meringue? Yeah. Okay, I had it right. Meringue. And have it be like baked Alaska or a key lime burnt. So it's a fire type. Is the main idea that I had for this, was to have it have like a little bit of like spikiness to it and look a little bit more like hardcore, because this version is much more soft. Obviously it's very innocent, but imagine like a burnt version that's also like a meringue, which is also whipped, which would make sense. I guess the milky version of it would be like an egg or egg white essentially, right? But that gets whipped in the same way to stiff peaks, and then you cook it, or like just kind of torch it, depending on the consistency that you want for it. For either the baked Alaska, which is like a ice cream cake cup, or just a ice cream, I think, topped with meringue and then lit on fire, or like a key lime pie that has a torched meringue top a lot of the time. Again, in the States. I don't know about other places, but meringues are popular in other countries as well. And Dachshund is an interesting one. I think maybe there are multiple ways, obviously, we go about this doggo. There's a croissant for more bread. I think that also, maybe for more of a variant, cinnamon bun. Right? I think that could be interesting, and then it could have like a secondary fire type, like it's spicy, and then it would look cool. It would have like a brindle pattern to it too. I think that that would be the way that I would want to go about it, and yeah, make that a little bit more, a little bit more like swirly essentially, and make it more of a dessert. Like at the moment, it is I think it's a pâte à choux. It's like an eclair. Because it's got the fluff, I imagine, is supposed to be like a cream filling. So like a croissant would make sense, but it's not like, it's not too different. It's just a different kind of laminated bread. So I think maybe cinnamon bun might be the way to go about that. But at that, I am going to throw this over to Spade Paint Voiceover and try to do, instead of 3, a whole team of Pokemon. So I will see you there. I mainly did these in the random order I placed them in, so I started out with the Poltegeist. Literally right after I stopped recording, I realized an obvious option for this one that I missed, iced tea, which is probably even more American than the coffee idea and possibly not even as internationally understood, but the more obvious idea of an ice typing was something that I really liked. Personally, as someone who did not grow up in the South, my idea of iced tea is usually unsweetened. It's basically just cold regular tea, maybe with sugar added afterward, which is not how sweet tea is made. The tea still has to be hot to make sweet tea, or at least that's what I've heard. During the summer, my family likes to make what we call sun tea, which is basically just tea in room temperature water left to steep in the sun. It's always made in jugs or glass pitchers, like I decided to depict the little ghosty in here. Initially, I thought I might give it a cap, but I decided on a little cocktail umbrella instead as like a little sunshade. They're just chillin', figuratively and literally. I didn't wind up doing shinies for these, both because I don't think I have for my regional variants, and because I did a whole team this time. But I think if this guy had a shiny, it would be green, like that antique radium glassware people still collect. This variant of Poltegeist has a far more lax demeanor, possibly due to the ice in its body slowing it down inherently. Iced tea is far more common in the region it resides in than hot, so it started occupying antique pitchers instead. Local folklore describes the addition of ice coming from an unaware human, but the Poltegeist is sometimes seen adding the ice itself to cool down its body, as well as sporting an umbrella to prevent it from melting too quickly in the sun. The pictures still have real and counterfeit markings, but they're quite heavy to lift to check. Next up is Appleton, and this is another very likely not internationally recognizable dessert. I thought it would be funny to do worms and dirt, which I haven't really personally had, but it's basically like the most cloyingly sweet candy dessert made with chocolate cake and or Oreos with gummy worms sticking out of it. I think it's Midwestern in origin, which is common with US food crimes. Regardless, it's really cute, and I love the idea of an apple-flavored gummy version of the Applin line. This variant is a dragon ground type like Garchomp, the idea being that the chocolate is like actually dirt, I guess. I think this version would have the nickname the Gummy Worm Pokemon, but worm with a Y like a dragon. I did change some of the names here, assuming that the name change would be like with Berserker, that it would vary too much to be considered the original. It is very similar though, it's apple gum. I figured the whole Applin line leading up to this would be like candy facsimiles, really kind of imitating them over anything like artificial flavors do. Apple gum is always preceded by the overwhelming smell of apple flavor and chocolate. It's so sweet the dirt and mud it hides under is turned to chocolate. It hides under the ground and occasionally scares passers-by who aren't aware, but it's incredibly friendly, just very shy and hiding from predators attracted to its saccharine smell. Some Pokemon find the smell overwhelming and artificial, while others can't seem to get enough of it. Our third mon is Slurpuff. Unlike Swirlix, it might be more based on like meringue or marzipan, but I still like the idea of translating cotton candy to a snow cone because they look similar and are usually both popular vendor food. I went for some chunky icy hair covering most of the eyes and decided to make the color blue both for the ice and because that is objectively the best flavor. Okay, green apple is really good for snow cones too. And watermelon. Maybe this Pokemon has a gimmick where you can add different colors to it and its base is white or the default is blue, I don't know. Instead of the cherry, I went for a plastic spoon sticking out of the top. I also thought it would be fun to have the syrup more concentrated toward the top so it almost looks like the roots of the hair. The splatter color on the bottom got to stay mostly the same. I wound up naming this variant Sirpup, like syrup. I think the first step would probably change names too, and would be something like Swirl Ice. It would be double weak to fire, but maybe it can have an effect called like Freezer Burn where it resists fire attacks. Sirpup, unlike most ice variants, didn't adapt to colder weather but warmer weather. The sugary nature of Slurpuff made it prone to getting a little too runny in the hot sun, so it adapted an icy mane to keep itself cool. The syrup on top can be changed color to suit their trainer's flavor preference, but is mostly commonly found blue in the wild, as it doesn't like to be unflavored. Starting on the back half of the team, we have Vanillux, kind of a forgettable Pokemon. Like, I'm over the fact that it's just ice cream because a lot of Pokemon are just single objects, but something about it is just boring to me. This was my attempt to fix that. Another instance where I'm not totally sure how popular this kind of dessert is in other countries. I'm sensing a theme. But I decided to go for a double scoop root beer float. I guess I could have made them a sundae too, but I feel like the primary thing with variants is also the change of type, so I made it an ice water type. No more fire weakness for these guys. Their shape got a bit more smushed and rounded. I think original Vanillux was kind of like a soft serve cone, but the typical topper for a float is just scooped ice cream. I also turned their little curly cues into whipped cream tops to match, and gave them some double straws and a cherry on top. I also felt like with the 50s soda jerk vibe, I should give them rosy little cheeks to match the red up top. The glass here is a little less rendered than Poltergeist, but there also isn't as much visible, so I didn't really feel like I needed to go as far with it, and it kind of brings a cartoony vibe to the whole thing I like. Again, like kind of the old rubber hose cartoon or something. This variant of Vanillux is evolved by giving Vanillish an old-fashioned soda from a popular diner. The drink is made to share, which makes it a common symbol of friendship or even romance. The sugary soda makes the two heads giddy pranksters, and they'll often spit soda at unsuspecting people or Pokemon. Second to last, we have Alcremie. I had a vision for this one pretty quickly, resembling a torched meringue like you'd find on top of a key lime pie or a baked Alaska. The wild, scent, curly hair gave me this feeling that this would be a more rebellious fairy fire type who's kind of breaking the cutesy, quiet nature of the regular Alcremie. I like a rocker girl, okay? Sue me. Designing this did remind me of Marshadow, which I guess if you wanted to make the base team for this, you could sub out one of the fairy types with it because it is a marshmallow. And a ghost fighting type, which, is that a reference, Nintendo? Ghost fighting? Marshmallow? Ghostbusters? Is Marshadow the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man? Back to our girl here, which isn't generalizing apparently because all Alcremie are female. I decided to change her name to Al Creme Brulee. Although creme brulee and meringue are different desserts, the pun just felt too strong to pass up. Giving Milcery a special torch and spinning it results in a fiery, singed Al Creme Brulee. They are much more boisterous than a typical Alcremie and can catch fire when they're upset or excited. Their hard outer shell lets them take a number of hits, and being hit by fire-type moves raises their defense even further. And finally, last but not least, Puppy! I didn't necessarily mean to save Duxbun for last, but I do like me a Dogmon. I guess Slurpuff is my usual exception here, but it's growing on me, I think. It doesn't really look like a dog. My main inspiration for this variant was a cinnamon bun. I did also decide to make it look a bit more like a long-haired dachshund by turning the icing that usually goes over the top into fur laying over parts of the body. Then I kind of went for a swirly brindle pattern all over the body with some clear cinnamon buns interspersed. The main idea here was how cinnamon buns tend to be baked all smushed together. As it is, it might better resemble a papillion dog breed, but I kept the name Dachsbun because a cinnamon bun is still a bun. I considered making it a fire fairy like Al Creme Brulee, but I was doing so well with not having complete type overlap, and cinnamon isn't really all that spicy to evoke a fire type for me, so instead I went for a ground type, my reasoning being that the cinnamon is ground. This variant of Dachsbun is incredibly popular in its region for its brindle coloring and irresistible cinnamon scent. Rumors are that it originated from a baker accidentally spilling cinnamon sugar on a litter of Fidos. It's incredibly sweet, figuratively and literally, and makes an excellent house pet. Its sense of smell is more limited than a regular Dachsbun though, because it's overwhelmed by the cinnamon. But that is my entire team of Pokemon variants. I think I'll call this one the Mall Food Court team. Diabetes team. If they don't finish you off, the tooth decay will. Seriously, I feel like I accidentally made these cute card of confections into a candy nightmare. Besides Creme Brulee, maybe. She's still pretty fancy. Don't get it twisted though, I do like these designs, just altogether they look like a sugar coma. Let me know which one is your favorite in the comments, and maybe some other theme teams you'd like to see me take a crack at. This was a super fun experiment, and as much work as it is, drawing a whole team is quite satisfying. At that though, I'll leave this here, and I will see y'all next time.